This is CNN.
This is a presentation of CNN Business News.
Live from the world's financial capital, New York City, this is Business Day with Stuart Varney and Deborah Marchini.
Good morning. 30 million people within the 7 richest nations of the world are out of work, and officials from the G7 countries are meeting in Detroit in the hope of doing something about it.
But just what to do is far from clear. President Clinton, playing host, will push for freer trade with Japan and lower interest rates in Europe. The president hopes that his G7 allies will listen to and act on what he has to say. Irv Chapman reports.
The Motor City was shedding workers when President Clinton broached the idea of a jobs conference last summer. The country coming out of recession with job growth still sluggish. Well, now the car industry is in fine shape, hiring again. And in the 8 months since Mr. Clinton sold the job conference to the prime ministers attending the Tokyo summit, the U.S. created more new jobs than Europe did in an entire decade.
In Europe, it is difficult to move employees from job to job, from company to company, from position to position, partly because it's so difficult to remove employees, partly because there are so many job classifications, work rules, and rigidities built into the system.
There's also been much higher wage and fringe benefit growth in Europe than here.
We've kept our wage levels down, whereas wages have risen very sharply in Europe. We've therefore been able to create jobs they have not. Likewise, they've had good worker training programs that have improved the skills of their people to do higher wage, higher level jobs. We could learn from them on that count as well.
For the Europeans, the training may be good, but it's not been good enough for the 5 million unemployed young people.
These people, of course, could very well become the lost generation of young Europeans. They have low skills and very little qualification, and they find it extremely difficult to get access to the labour market. So the best way to get the high levels of productivity and to maintain our competitive position is to have a truly well-qualified labour force.
With job creation something to boast about rather than lament, the Clinton administration is likely to use the Detroit conference to build momentum for its ambitious job training plans. Other governments may get momentum for their efforts to reduce labor cost inflation and cut the high price of their welfare states. Irv Chapman, CNN Business News, Washington.
Here with more on what may be accomplished at the Job Summit is Commerce Secretary Ron Brown. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning.
Mr. Clinton is scheduled to make what's being billed as a major policy speech on the economy this morning. What can we expect?
I think what you can expect is some dialogue about the importance of this conference, what it means to the United States, what it means to the other G7 countries. I think whenever you get an opportunity to bring together the most powerful countries in economic terms in the world and talk about a common problem, the problem of unemployment, I think all of the countries gain by that, and the President will clearly be referring to that this morning.
In the financial markets, we've seen a rather sharp backup in interest rates. Does that worry you in terms of its impact on economic activity and jobs?
No, the fact is we've got the lowest interest rates in 20 years, inflation under control, growth about where we want it. We've created 2 million new jobs in the private sector in the first year of the Clinton presidency. That's more than in all the previous 4 years combined. So we're very pleased with the way the economy is recovering.
New jobs have been created, but it seems the large blue chip companies that used to offer generous benefits and some job security are still shedding jobs by some accounts at a record pace. Does that concern you?
Well, downsizing does concern us, and what happens to those workers concerns us. The fact is that many of the large companies are downsizing. They're getting more productive, they're getting more competitive, and frankly, better to have them downsizing than going out of business, which would being non-competitive would certainly mean. The fact is that as important as the Fortune 500 companies are to the American economy, and they're very important, they employ only 11% of the private sector workforce in America. Small companies employ 60% of the private sector workforce in America, and that's where the real opportunity for growth is, using technology and innovation, focusing on clearing the way for the private sector to do what it does best, and that is create jobs, is really the focus of the administration's policies.
It is clearly true that the United States economy is creating many, many new jobs, but the criticism is that they're all hamburger flipping jobs, not worth having. What do you say to that?
It's criticism by those who don't really know the facts. That is not true. When you look at what's happening in manufacturing, for example, when we've been in decline as far as manufacturing is concerned for the last 15 years, we find that that has leveled off. And that, in fact, we're creating a lot of new jobs in the manufacturing sector.
But wasn't that your
Generally,
criticism?
these heroic, new, dynamic firms are doing it.
Wasn't that your criticism of the Bush administration, that they were creating jobs but only hamburger-flipping jobs?
Well,
has Mr. Clinton done something to radically rechange and restructure the American economy so that's no longer true?
There's no question about that. The problem during the Bush years, we weren't creating jobs at all. As I just indicated, about a total of about a million, or rather 2 million over the whole 4-year period. That is inadequate job creation. Now that we've moved into economic recovery, we think we can do a lot better on that. And yes, what we're changing is we're focusing on technology. We're focusing on innovation. One of the things that is on the floor of the Senate this week is S4, the Competitiveness Act of 1994, which really creates a real relationship of trust and respect between the public and private sector, so that the public sector, when warranted, is getting out of the way, and when not warranted, is really becoming a better and more effective partner through providing assistance through manufacturing technology centers to get technology in the hands of small and medium-sized businesses so they can be more productive, competitive, so that they can grow and employ American workers.
Mr. Secretary, let's talk about export jobs for just a moment. The revocation of most favored nation trade privileges for China would presumably result in the loss of American export jobs and presumably raise the cost of Chinese products in the United States. What are your estimates of the impact such an action would have on American employment and inflation?
Well, I'm certainly very concerned about that. As you know, we have embarked on a new national export strategy, which the President announced last September. Believe it or not, America's never had a national export strategy. The fact is that American exports equal American jobs. Every billion-dollar increase in exports is almost 20,000 new jobs for the American people. So we are focusing on these big emerging markets that we haven't paid enough attention to before. China is certainly one of those. So obviously, I'm concerned about that. By the same token, we're concerned about the moral responsibility of the United States to lead on such issues of human rights. But I think the focus clearly is on how our economic security is inextricably tied to our national security, how we have to help the American economy grow and prosper so that we can create jobs for our people.
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown, thanks indeed for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
Business Day, we'll be right back.
We don't make any major purchase unless it comes with a good guarantee. That's why when we heard about Globe's long life $10,000 insurance policy, we knew it was the one for us.
Globe's long life policy features real guarantees like lifetime coverage.
It will never be canceled because of age, health, or occupation.
Level premium rates.
The premium rate you establish now will never increase.
The $10,000 benefit is level.
The benefit will never be reduced and is available from the day your policy is approved.
Call this toll-free number now for complete information and applications. It's easy to apply, no physical exams, just answer a few health questions.
And right now, you can start a $10,000 long life policy for $1. $1 pays the premium for the first month.
Your complete satisfaction is guaranteed.
Call Globe today.
For complete information and applications, call 1-800-832-0892. Call Globe today at 1-800-832-0892.
When it comes to controlling the cost of government, the honor roll continues to be led by Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania spends more money and helps more firms than any other state.
The state is well positioned to take advantage of a strengthening national economy.
Get used to hearing good things about Pennsylvania, because nobody works harder than the people of Pennsylvania to make business more competitive. Nice going.
The National Organization for Women.
In the eternal search for the truth, you're bound to step on a few toes.
Ross Perot.
To those aggrieved parties, we now offer our apology. Crossfire, weeknights on CNN.
Now let's get to today's world stock market action. A lot going on. The people who trade U.S. stocks in London predict that the Dow Industrials will open maybe 10 points higher on Wall Street. Plenty of buying already. Keep an eye on Grumman stock. Northrop's $2 billion hostile bid, well, that begins today. And some computer stocks, they're already moving in London. Apple Computer up a half. It introduces a more powerful personal computer today using a new and faster chip. Digital Equipment up a quarter. It's unveiling 5 new PCs today using Intel's powerful Pentium chip. Intel, though, down a half. Traders in London say there's concern that the Pentium isn't as fast as the chip that Apple is using. Disney up 3/8 on news that the troubled Euro Disney theme park has finally agreed on a financial rescue package with its banks. Disney got some more good news over the weekend. Lawmakers in Virginia agreed to provide $160 million in incentives to Disney for an American history theme park there.
Stocks in Europe are rallying this morning. In London, the Financial Times 100 share index is 40 points higher at 32 on hope for lower interest rates after good inflation figures. Frankfurt's DAX up a whopping 44 points at 2148 after a poor showing by far right in a state election. And in Tokyo, the Nikkei average closed with a gain of 410 points or 2% at 20,526. That's its high for 1994. A little closer to home, last week, thousands of job cuts were announced by major employers, including Fleet Financial Services and Burger King. They join a growing list of companies announcing cutbacks, even as the nation slowly climbs out of its recession. Here to explain what's going on, Rick Cobb, Vice President of Challenger Gray & Christmas. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Clearly, blue chip companies in the United States continue to shed jobs. The Clinton administration contends that new jobs are being created. Is it your assessment that the jobs are being created are as high-paying and as secure as the ones that have been lost?
I don't really think so. I think what you're seeing is significant layoffs by the Fortune 1000, and they're focusing actually right now in the northeastern seaboard. So I would say, no, not really.
What kinds of jobs are we seeing created in this economy?
Well, there is an increase in the global impact of American corporations. They realize that their market, because it's not growing in the United States, has to be expanded out into other countries. So the positions that are opening up are those that indicate an expertise to work in Europe and the emerging markets.
I understand that you have a new survey out which suggests that in the first 2 months of this year, job losses, downsizing at major corporations, moved on at the fastest pace almost ever. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is, and it's the largest increase in layoffs we've seen since, I think, 1989. The prime drop in, the prime number of layoffs came from the communications industry.
Why are they doing this, and why no end to a trend that we've seen for several years now?
Well, one of the things that you have to look at is that the major corporations now are under tremendous pressure, one, to respond to the immediate market. Wall Street dictates that profits and the dividends have to be solid and continue. At the same time, technology has consolidated a lot of operations that could be performed by other people, or large numbers of people. And then the competition in general dictates that when times are good, even, as in the case of, say, Procter & Gamble, where everything was rosy, that you still reduce to prepare yourself for competition both here in the United States and internationally.
But we do have a declining unemployment rate. Where are the people who are laid off at the big-name companies? Where are they going to find work?
Well, one of the disturbing issues, I think, is that there are a lot of people out there who finally just give up in the marketplace and stop looking, and how much of that's reflected by the statistics that you see quoted, we don't really have a good handle on. The problem is I don't believe that, one of the things we're talking about with G7 is the retraining of people in the marketplace. I think a bigger issue for us, that's sort of an aspirin for a broken arm. The big issue is going to be creating a marketplace where the companies can grow and expand and aren't tied to the quarterly dividend.
Rick Cobb, Challenger Gray & Christmas, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And Business Day will be right back.
Computers, communications, electron devices, NEC, technology for a more harmonious world.
At Sterling, we've invented a new kind of shower door. More about the giraffe in a moment. This is the Sterling Freestyle. Unlike any shower curtain or sliding door, the Freestyle opens fully with no track below to clean and no track above, which means no matter how tall you are, you will never bump your head or neck again. This is Sam Davis, Vice Chairman for Sterling. Thank you.
Japan removed one trade barrier in its dispute with the United States. It agreed to open its cellular telephone market to U.S. companies.
U.S. Ambassador to Japan Walter Mondale says he hopes the deal leads to Japan opening other markets. Bill Dorman reports on what the two countries still have to resolve.
American-made Motorola cellular phones are headed for wider exposure in Japan. That's the bottom line of an agreement reached over the weekend and announced by the U.S. ambassador and Japan's Minister of Post and Telecommunications. Those involved say lessons can be drawn from this deal to other aspects of trade between the United States and Japan.
Cellular phones in many ways is seen as symbolic of the problems of market penetration. I think the fact that the Japanese government put their shoulder to the wheel, as well as the U.S. government, and really made a very conscious and strong effort to resolve this, shows that these things can be resolved.
But it's a long way from phones to cars. The Motorola issue was not part of the failed trade framework talks, nor was it an issue under the U.S. Super 301 trade measure.
I do not see very clearly how it will affect this recent settlement will affect the negotiation of other sectoral issues, because they are different in nature.
The cellular telephone market is tightly regulated in Japan, giving a broad role to government. Issues such as autos and auto parts are centered in the private sector. One common theme is negotiation and the reaction of the Japanese government to the threat of sanctions.
Strategically, this is a colossal failure for the Japanese government because they had said they were going to take a hard line on these kinds of issues, and then as soon as America really, rattled its saber, the Japanese government caved in.
The United States and Japan still have a lot to talk about on trade. From cars to macroeconomics, the two sides remain separated by a long distance. But when it comes to telecommunications, now at least there's a dial tone. Bill Dorman, CNN Business News, Tokyo.
Trade talks between the United States and China have also been tense, to say the least. But Secretary of State Warren Christopher just left Beijing and reported some progress. The Chinese provided the U.S. with information about political prisoners. No prisoners were released, however. The U.S. is threatening to take away China's favorable trading privileges if China does not improve its human rights record, while China sells 1/3 of its exports in the U.S.
I wouldn't describe it as a breakthrough, and it was a businesslike and productive meeting. We began to narrow the differences. Evaluation remains to be done. More work needs to be done.
Christopher also received an earful from American business leaders in Beijing. They say it would cost them dearly if the U.S. denies China's most favored nation status when it comes up for renewal in June.
It's now about 12 minutes before the hour.
And Bob Kane standing by in Atlanta with the news headlines for us. Bob?
Stuart, Deborah, a bond hearing is scheduled for today in Charlotte, North Carolina for a man police say has killed 10 women over a 20-month period. Henry Lewis Wallace was charged yesterday. Police said he knew his victims and had even worked with some of them. 9 of the 10 bodies were found before Wallace was charged. Police say information from Wallace led them to the 10th body yesterday. Florida's Governor Lawton Chiles says his state spent $884 million to take care of illegal aliens in 1993, and Chiles says he plans to sue the federal government for reimbursement. Florida estimates its illegal alien population at 345,000. A spokesman for the Immigration and Naturalization Service questions the accuracy of the $884 million estimate in the Florida report. As part of an effort to rekindle Mideast peace talks, an Israeli delegation has talked with PLO leader Yasser Arafat in Tunis. They delivered to him Israel's response to PLO demands for better security for Palestinians in the wake of the Hebron massacre. We'll have more news at the top of the hour. Stuart, Deborah?
Thank you, Bob. While the president takes up the business of jobs in Detroit, he's still dogged by the Whitewater affair.
Jill Doherty reports on who's fielding the questions.
President Clinton in Detroit was talking jobs, not Whitewater. But as the trip began, his presidential counselor David Gergen seemed happy to fill in the blanks, claiming the White House was anxious and aggressive to be helpful to legal authorities.
I hope we've made some progress convincing the press that we are being highly cooperative and public. And I think gradually American people will then understand through press reports that just how cooperative and open the President, First Lady, and others are being.
The president's point man for the day was new White House counsel Lloyd Cutler.
I think in the end it will turn out, at least as far as even a breath of criminal activity by either the President or the First Lady, it will turn out to be nothing at all.
Even the first family's former partner in the Whitewater real estate development was on TV, criticizing the Clintons for not giving him copies of documents he needs to file his taxes, but defending them nonetheless from any wrongdoing.
I don't see any crime that's apparent that Mrs. Clinton may have committed. She may have, as she told the Time reporters, done some very sloppy bookkeeping. Lawyers are notoriously poor bookkeepers.
Republicans were out in full force, too, keeping up the drumbeat for congressional hearings on Whitewater.
The escalation has come by shoe dropping after shoe dropping after shoe dropping in the White House, not from Congress. And if the majority would allow a hearing, would allow full disclosure, would allow full witnesses, we could put this behind us.
Democrats argued back that any hearing should be delayed until after independent counsel Robert Fisk completes his Whitewater-related investigation.
The real answer is to let the special counsel conduct his investigation. He is a Republican. He was appointed at the request of Republicans. He was praised by Republicans. He's a man of experience and integrity, and he is obviously conducting a thorough, detailed investigation with full subpoena power. He ought to be permitted to complete his investigation, and no action should be taken which will undermine it or impede it.
After a week of reacting to attacks on Whitewater, the White House is now acting, with the first family taking a deliberately business-as-usual approach. The president at the jobs conference, the First Lady at healthcare events. Jill Doherty, CNN, the White House.
In just a moment, we're going to recap the morning's top stories.
And we'll have the latest on the European stock markets and their rally. Business Day, right back.
Liz, if it occurs to you, I need my airline tickets, huh?
Oh, look, we're going to need you to pitch in on that budget analysis.
You know, I'd love to, but you know, I'm on the road at the Hyatt.
Okay.
Mr. Dennis, I can call the Hyatt and they can get you a computer and an in-room fax machine so you can do all the work you need to do right there.
Gee, thanks, Liz.
With Hyatt's new business plan, you can do a lot more business away from business.
And you can get right to work in your room, sir.
Have you met my secretary?
We've thought of everything at the Hyatts of the Midwest.
Hometown proud. It's more than just a feeling. For your locally owned IGA supermarket, it's a way of life. While the global buying power of 4,000 IGA stores means hometown savings, like Nabisco's Triscuits, Wheat Thins, and better cheddar crackers, and delicious home cooking and chunky soups from Campbell's. Hometown savings. At IGA, it's one more reason we're hometown proud.
IGA. The new Saab 900. It won Automobile Magazine's Design of the Year. Consumers Digest rated it a best buy. Kiplinger's Personal Finance magazine called it the best new car in its class. But with a 50% stiffer body, the new 900 is designed to survive much more than the scrutiny of the press.
Today, actress Victoria Roll of The Young and the Restless joins us with her real-life work away from soaps. I'm Donna Kelly. Also, Martha Stewart brings some great ideas to help make your Easter celebration a hit. All that today on CNN, 9 a.m. Eastern.
Now, recapping today's top stories, President Clinton and members of his cabinet meet with their counterparts from around the world. The topic, the global outlook for jobs, training and trade. And Secretary of State Warren Christopher concludes a visit to China, saying the two countries made, quote, significant overall progress on human rights. but that work remains to be done. The Clinton administration has linked human rights to China's favorable trading status.
Also today, keep your eye on Wall Street. Traders of U.S. stocks in London predict a strong open. That would come on the heels of gains in Europe this morning. And there's some powerful rallies underway. Right now, the Financial Times 100 is 41 points higher. The DAX index is up 41.5, and in Paris, the CAC 40 is up nearly 36 points.
And finally, this reminder to watch Moneyline with Lou Dobbs later today here on CNN. His guest will be Britain's Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kenneth Clarke.
Their topic, the Jobs Summit in Detroit. That's Moneyline with Lou Dobbs at 7 p.m. and 11:30 Eastern here on CNN. And that's Business Day for this Monday. I'm Deborah Marchini in New York.
And I'm Stuart Varney. Here's Bob Kane now, standing by in Atlanta with a look at what's next on Daybreak. Bob?
Coming up at the top of the hour, a major shipping lane becomes an inferno. Fed up with illegal aliens, Florida threatens to send Washington the bill. A man who looks at junk and sees potential has art collectors buzzing. We'll have those stories and the latest sports, weather, and business news right after the Business Traveler's Advisory.
This has been a presentation of CNN Business News.